Very good.
and go by Stan.
Go by Stan. Yes, you're my Uncle Stan, right?
Right?
Now you're a veteran.
Well, yes, I was there after Marge, my sweetheart, and that she's just passed away now here in February 2018. We've been together 62 years, and just after I had my second 8 weeks training in the Army, before I went overseas, I was in clerical training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. We had our honeymoon back there after our marriage, and then I went over for 17 months, the start of 1956, in South Korea, duty to help in the peacekeeping process after the war, the Korean War.
And tell us about your accident. When did that happen?
That happened in the 30th of December, almost right at the end of the year of 1972. Actually, 45 years now ago.
45 years.
About half of my life. Now I'm 86. We just took the three boys we have. We have the three sons and one daughter, and took the three boys with me. Went up to help assist the Cub Master with an outing up on a cemetery hill up here in Magna. We like to go as a family, snow tubing we call it, with the inner tubes. And so that one day we were up there, fair amount of snow. We hooked the tubes together, went down a little faster than we anticipated. So when I hit the bottom, and my oldest son David's, his tube was hooked to mine. We detached there at the bottom, and his knee did the damage. I knew I had to be the front one going down the hill. I had no idea why until after this all happened. But all he did was sustain a little bit of discomfort with his knee for a while. And I was so grateful that I didn't have any of the Cub Scouts get hurt, any of my sons or anybody else, because I felt like it would be better for me to handle it than anyone else.
So it was his knee that hit into your back?
Yeah, just did a complete severance, spinal severance. I felt my father's presence up on the hill that day. He'd died just a year or so before that. Felt like that somehow I was going to get through this and be able to get back to doing all that I could for the family.
And you were able to do a fine job as a father, as a husband. And so the Lord, you think, was involved, not necessarily with the accident, that He caused it to happen, but He allowed it to happen. Is that a fair assessment, or how do you reconcile your change in life? You had this very normal life before the accident, and then your life completely changed directions. How do you reconcile that?
Well, I have a lot of faith that there are things that can be revealed to us a little ahead of time before we have some of these adversities come upon us. My experience was just about roughly a year. I think it was probably in 71 in the winter time. My wife and I were walking across the street from the Church Museum of Art and History there, across to the Temple Square, and right in front of me, with the snow on the ground and everything, was a fellow in a wheelchair. And I happened to be the one right behind him. He was more of what we call a quad, had quadriplegic. Yeah. He didn't have a lot of good use of his hands, but he could move his wheelchair.
You're a paraplegic, and he was
Of course, I'm a paraplegic, but he has some little bit of impairment in his arms too.
Yeah.
But anyway, all of a sudden he fell backward, and I don't think he hit his head hard. I think I was able to cushion some of his fall. I guess I was alert enough to being that close in front of me, crossing the street there, that I could diffuse some of the fall and help him back up and help him get across the street.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing that stayed with me all these years is maybe the Lord's preparing me when I thought quite distinctly, I wonder what would happen to me if I had to be in a wheelchair, how I would deal with it. And so I had that opportunity to find out.
So you feel like the Lord knew in advance that that was going to happen?
He knew that was going to happen, and I didn't know then what I feel I know now is that was helping me to prepare, because he knew I was going to have to face that, and that might give me some courage that he knew that I could handle it somehow.
Yeah. So your faith, was it ever shaken because of that?
I was blessed to actually not go into any deep depression. Not that I think I was that unusual, but I didn't feel the need to say, why me? More, what can I do with this now? Because even more than that incident there, that day, I had some promptings ahead. Some event was going to happen.
So one of the things that I think people would like to hear from you is now that the last few years you've been bedridden. How many?
4 years
4
now.
years
At the end of June.
Yeah. So 2014 was when you had some sores and you had to be bedridden permanently.
Yeah, right at the end of June of that year.
June.
And so I kind of self-contained so that I try to work on family histories and things. The Lord has blessed me with the desire, when something isn't working right, try something else and try to be optimistic. Not that I claim any great powers or anything. I just know He's helped me to do that, and I think that's kept me going for a long time, working on family history, compiling things for the family, for the future. Although I wasn't able to do the gardening like I used to do, I had raised gardens and things to work on. Not as easy to do any artwork on a bed like this. Still, I found a lot of uplift from people come and visit, and their kindness.
And you help us when we visit you.
Well, I hope so, somewhat.
Just to describe where you're at, but you have a small home you live in, and you're in your room here. You have a small window here where you can look out and see outside. Once in a while you can look out and see the sky.
No, I'm not able to see the sky, because as I look out this window that I can look out of, that's a breezeway, and between us and our home and the garage.
Oh.
And so, but I see the light coming in, and I just have to be content with what I can see the light coming through. And up on the wall here in my room, our stake president that means a lot and has been so special to me. He took a picture of the forsythia bush we have out front, so he could bring some of the outside into me to encourage me that things were looking pretty good out there.
A springtime picture there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a flowering bush. That's beautiful.
And I like to have pictures up on the wall and the cabinets and things of the family, just little snapshots that remind me of good experiences.
That's beautiful. Well, I think that's a wonderful history. Is there anything more about your history you'd like to share?
Well, I think there's one thing that people say that I help inspire them at times in some ways, but the ones I've had people inspire me that really has helped me. I've been able to go and do a lot of things after my injury, because I'm only impaired from the waist down, except for maybe my mind. Maybe that's not as good as it used to be, but I'm still grateful I can think halfway straight. We had a fellow here in Magna that had sustained a very high injury that
on his spine,
and so he was a high quad,
yeah.
A high neck injury, about as high of an injury as Christopher Reeve's Superman,
right.
you know.
Yes.
And I used to like to go over and visit John, was his name, John Cash. He was in a circle electric bed, and he couldn't get out of that for about 36 years. He persevered.
Yeah.
I would go over to try to cheer him up, and I would always come back feeling uplifted, because I could drive over with hand controls in my car, take my wheelchair out, go in and visit with him. And he always was trying to do something worthwhile. He could not use his hands to even get the phone. They had it set by him, and he could call in his ward in our church to help get people to go to welfare service projects we used to do.
Uh-huh.
They didn't refuse him too often because, you know, they knew his situation.
Yeah.
And he would dictate letters that they would write up for him, the staff he had, for servicemen and missionaries, to tell them what's going on in sports and different things that he was interested in. So he kept busy.
Wow.
And I thought, he can't do anything much with these. He can't move his hands, he can't move anything. He could talk, but everything else, he had to just be content with what he could do, and that was very uplifting to see how he served.
Yeah.
And so we had another couple of people when I was down in Long Beach. One person that could only move his motorized chair with a pencil, push a certain thing to move.
Yeah.
And another one that was in an iron lung from his problems. So I could never feel like mine was that big of a situation because I could do things. I could adjust. I could go out and work on a garden. I could go and do wheelchair sports, both basketball and tennis.
Yeah,
I could
you were
go,
good, weren't you?
I could go and advocate for a better accessibility for the handicapped before they got the ADA. And so I've been able to switch from doing one thing when I couldn't do it to something else. And I guess just like a lot of people, trying to make a little lemonade out of our lemons, trying to find a way to do that.
That's amazing. Do you have any final advice for people who are struggling with faith?
Reach out to help others. Forget yourself and what you're going through. Don't say, why this happened to me. Say, what can I do about it? What can I do to help be one of the biggest things? And stay close to the Lord, because you have people here who are angels among us here on earth that help us, that I feel like He's placed in position for them to help us as we help them. And so it's just my simple philosophy. Keep striving. If you don't find something that works, try something else. And don't try to outguess what the Lord wants you to do. Do what you know feel right about doing at the time, because He's the one in charge, as far as I'm concerned.